welcome to the No Cricket Podcast. I'm Anurag.
And this is Saurabh.
We're commentators at CricBuzz.
So we watch a lot of live cricket.
And that means when everyone's asleep at 3 a.m.,
We're watching cricket.
when it's a Friday evening and you're at the bar,
We're watching cricket.
and when you're stuck in rush hour traffic on Monday morning.
We're watching cricket again.
So naturally, we have a lot of interesting conversations about cricket.
So we thought, why not record them in front of a camera and put them into the wide ocean that is the internet?
And that's exactly what we've done.
This is the No Cricket Podcast where we share our 2 cents about the sport that we love so much.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the No Cricket Podcast. We've got another interesting topic today. We're talking about Pakistan and Pakistan state in Test cricket. Now, with Pakistan's loss to Bangladesh recently in the first Test, we've got a lot to talk about, and we'll get started with Saurabh. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Anurag, it was quite a shocker, wasn't it, to see Bangladesh upset Pakistan in their own backyard. And to think about it, just to put into context, Bangladesh have not done really well in Test cricket in the last 3-4 years or so. The only 2 famous wins that they have is against New Zealand, one at home and one away from home. And they've lost, apart from that, they've only beaten Ireland, Afghanistan. So they've lost all major Test matches that they played. And then to pull off this result is quite a surprise and quite interesting to see. And more fascinating was they did it without a few of their more established players. So no Tashkent Ahmed for this game, no Abadat Hussain, no Taijul Islam. So it was good to see a bunch of the new crop of Bangladesh also emerge and achieve what they did. As much as it's credit Bangladesh, I think this was a loss that was brewing for Pakistan for quite a while. And it was a systemic downfall that was coming their way. I think, like, since Shan Masood took over captaincy, he's captained the team in 4 tests. And in those 4 tests, he's only had 5 players play all those test matches for him, which is Babar Azam, Shad Shakil, Abdullah Shafiq, and Shan Masood. That's it. Only 4 players have played all the 4 test matches that he's captained, and he's lost all the games that he's captained so far. So there is no real consistency in the Pakistan team, and there are some clear power struggles emerging within the group as well, like especially with Babar Azam being ousted as captain not so long ago. Shaheen Afridi himself might be wanting to be captain, so I don't know how he feels playing under someone else. What were your thoughts on the test match?
Oh yeah, definitely. I pick up on that word that you said, systemic failure. I think there should be a lot of focus on that. I think that's what this really highlights. You mentioned that only 4 players have played all 4 tests under Shan Masood, and yeah, it really comes through, doesn't it? There aren't players playing and performing consistently enough. And I think another big talking point is how Pakistan have performed at home. Again, we spoke about this the last time round about the West Indies and how they've not done very well at home. And surprisingly, Pakistan have done even worse at home in the last couple of years. I think they're the only team not to have a single win in their own backyard. And I mean, if you want to do well in Test cricket, you have to do well at home first and foremost. So yeah, I mean, this loss just like you said, it was I think it was brewing for a while, and it highlights a lot of issues that are present in Pakistan cricket, least of which is, like you said, power struggles, lack of form for players, not enough consistency, and yeah, they're a bit all over the place, aren't they? There doesn't seem to be um, that clarity in thought in the management and even in the administration. I think that extends all the way upwards. So yeah, your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, surely there isn't the clarity, like you said, and that's very visible with the team selections as well. So for the Australia series, which was the last Test series that Pakistan played, there were 4 players, namely Sarfaraz Ahmed, uh, Fahim Ashraf, Sajid Khan, and Imam ul Haq. These 4 guys are completely out of the window now. So they're not even in the squad. No one's talking about them, and Pakistan have straight away gone with a fresh squad for this Bangladesh series. So there is a lack of continuity, and in general, there isn't. It doesn't seem like a very happy camp. It seems like an insecure camp where players don't really know about their future, so they are a little struggling, and they don't know how confident they are about having a place in the team and having a consistent run of games because that they haven't got that consistency in the past. And in terms of the particular team that got selected itself, that's a bit of a tricky one itself. So, uh, five of the players, that's Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan, Naseem Shah, Shaheen Afridi, and Abdullah Shafiq. They came into this test match with no domestic experience. They played zero test matches in the last year and a half. So, straight away pushed into the deep end with test cricket. And it's not going to be easy to suddenly come into this format after all you've done is played a lot of white ball cricket, a lot of franchise cricket, and that was evident with some of the stroke making and especially with the batters. For example, the way Babar Azam got out in the second innings, or the way Abdullah Shafiq got out. Those were just rash shots, more from a T20 mindset, not being able to adapt out here, and that's why you fold at 150. And when you look at the bowling itself, Naseem Shah is playing his first Test match in over a year. Shaheen Afridi is playing his first Test match since the first Test in Australia. So, and between in this interim, all he's done is played franchise cricket. He's gone and played in most of the leagues across the world. So I don't know how fit his body was to take up a Test match, and it's all the more worse when you're bowling 40 overs in 40-degree heat in Rawalpindi. So not a very good Test match for Pakistan. Is there any glimmer of hope according to you?
Yeah, I mean, lots to dissect there, isn't it? And you say glimmer of hope. I'm very skeptical in saying, I'm very skeptical to think that there might be, especially after what the PCB chairman said recently. In an interview, he recently said that, and I quote: "The problem is the selection committee has no pool to turn to pick players from," and I find that statement absolutely appalling. It's not like Pakistan is a country that has a small population. It's not like you're New Zealand with a 5 million population where cricket isn't even the primary sport. Pakistan is a country of 300 million where it's a cricket crazy nation. So to say that there's a lack of talent, there's a lack of players to pick from. I find that statement absolutely appalling, and I think it highlights the systemic failure even more. It highlights the failure of the administration. And if you're a Pakistan fan, I think you have a right to be outraged. You have a right to be disappointed, and you have a right to question the authority. And when the authority themselves is shrugging their shoulders and saying we don't know what's gone wrong, then yeah, I don't know. I don't know where Pakistan cricket goes from here. I think there needs to be a major overhaul, not in the players, like the administration recently stated after the T20 World Cup. I think they said that they needed a surgery or something like that. But yeah, I don't think it's the team that needs a surgery. I think it's the entire system, the entire administration that needs an external look in. Maybe I don't know who'd be responsible for something like that. But I think there needs to be an overhaul in the administration and the way in which domestic cricket is run. And speaking of domestic cricket, it brings me to another statement which the PCB chairman made. He said that for the recent Championship Cup, which is Pakistan's premier one-day tournament, I believe, he said that the pool of 150, so 150 players were selected for this tournament, and he said that 80% of the weightage for selecting these players was given to an AI system, and only 20% was done by 20% weightage was given to the selectors. And I find that statement ridiculous as well. I think this is really a blanket measure to stop people from pointing fingers at the management. They're just saving their own skin, and that is not going to help Pakistan cricket. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's absolutely baffling that something like sport gets into AI so heavily and, in fact, relies on selection through that. And the thing about surgery being needed, well, surgery can only be done if the surgeon's good enough. So,
Absolutely,
in
that's
this
a
case,
belief.
yeah, in this case, I feel the problems with the surgeon in that what I mean is the administrators themselves have a lot to blame. So I looked at the domestic, what's happening in Pakistan's domestic circuit. So their premier red ball tournament is called the Kaz-e-Azam Trophy, and it's a trophy that's been running since 1954. It's an annual tournament that's been held. But the funny part about this tournament is every year the rules and the number of teams, the way the competition structure changes. So they don't have a set number of teams. Some years they play through regions, some years they play through cities. You can also register as a company playing that. You can also register as a government body. Like for example, India has a railways team. So Pakistan, it's a bit of a hodgepodge where different kinds of teams are allowed to register and play in this tournament. And there is no clarity on how many games you get per season and how the format is going to look ahead. And this entire system was kind of scrapped in 2020, where they decided that from now on, Kaze Ahmad is going to be a 6 team tournament and it's going to be a province led thing. But, and the intention was nice. They just wanted to weed out a lot of probably nonsensical teams that were registering for such events. But overnight, what this did is it just eliminated so many people from livelihood. There were so many people employed playing for these teams, so many coaches, so many pitch curators, all rendered jobless. Another problem in Pakistani cricket is there is a lot of political interference, and that's not really helping the sport. So every time that the government changes in Pakistan, the PCB chairman takes a topple as well. So you always have a chairman who is more sympathetic towards the government. And uh, the thing about Pakistan is they've never had a government complete a full term. So there has never been a PCB chairman too who's finished 5 years at the job. So again, what that's causing is a lot of insecurity and just a lot of uncertainty about how long a chairman will be in the job and what kind of changes they'll be able to implement. The other thing is these appointees are very politically led. So they need not necessarily be someone very experienced in cricket. They just need to have the blessings of the political party. Like Ramesh Raja, for instance, he was not even a district administrator and he was elevated straight to the role of PCB chairman because he was pally with Imran Khan, who was the prime minister of Pakistan at that point. And Ramesh Raja did try a few things, but it all sort of toppled on its way. He wanted to get drop-in pitches to Pakistan, an idea that was shelved midway because of how costly it was. Then he wanted to create a junior PSL tournament, and unfortunately, there was no broadcast interest for this tournament. So PSL decided to just put the bill on itself, and this ended up being a severely loss-making event for the PSL, which in itself is not a really profitable cricket organization as we speak. So, and the other problem about having political appointments is you're not getting people who are very in sync with cricket. You're getting people uh, who got there because of somebody else's blessings, and it's also that's incentivizing a lot of bribery, a lot of corruption to come into the system, and players are also being picked if they have a good relationship with the politician or with the administrator. So a case in point is somebody like Imam ul Haq. He played 2 seasons of domestic cricket before he was elevated to the Pakistani national team. And you can guess why that happened. He has a very famous uncle, and someone like Shahid Shakil, for example, he has been in the grind in domestic circuit for about 7 years. Salman Aga has been in domestic cricket since 2013, and he got his first call up to Pakistan in 2021. So where you are can dictate a lot about, and who your friends are can dictate a lot about where you reach in Pakistani cricket. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. When you have external forces creeping into what ideally should be a merit based system, I think it creates a lot of problems. And I mean, what we see now is really a product of that. Them saying they don't have enough of a talent pool to pick from. Again, I keep coming back to that because I find that so baffling and so ridiculous. Um, I I mean, you've got again, like you said, the domestic structure seems to be completely broken, so as to say, and not consistent. I think the first thing that the administrators need to look at is building a more robust and more consistent domestic system where there's clarity on the structure, there's clarity on whatever the number of teams, the number of players, and like you said, it shouldn't be changed on a whim based on whoever is in power. I think that's what they need to nail first, and it's really showing again. They say they don't have enough players, yet we've gone through so many names that have played for Pakistan that have shown promise. So I think it's about creating a system that fosters these players, that gives this, what really is a cricket crazy nation, that gives them a platform, that gives them a stage where they can consistently perform, where they can consistently show their skills. And yeah, it should be a merit based system. I mean, it's very idealistic to say that. I know it's not easy, but as long as they don't find a way to make that happen, these problems will continue to exist. Um, yeah.
So the other thing is about one problem is when you have your administration, your cricket administration, so influenced by political figures. What's happening is anytime a new government comes to power, the first thing that at a governmental level they try to do is just annul a lot of what was done by the previous government. So this happens across the board, across countries, where you want to poke fun of the previous government and their achievements, and just act like your way was better. The problem is in Pakistan, this is seeping into their cricket structure as well. So that is why when every new chairman comes in, the ideas of the predecessor, they're all thrown out of the window. So you start fresh. Even good ideas or good implementations that would have been done in the past, they're completely scratched away and something new is done. It's probably just to prove a point that, hey, our way of doing things are a lot better than the guys in the past they could. And that was evident with the Kaise Azam trophy and the way they brought about these changes. So overnight, when they switched to a 16 model, do you want to take a guess how they arrived or why they arrived at a 16 model structure?
A 60, was it 60 model, is it? I don't know. Did they did they roll a dice or something?
That's not a very bad guess, honestly, because the reason is they went purely on the Australian system. Australia has 6 states, and every team has a state. Pakistan just went to replicate that without thinking about what their realities are, what their population is, how much of necessarily cricket interest exists in these two countries. And they just looked at Australia as a successful model, a country that wins a lot of tournaments, and decided, hey, let's get this system into our country as well. So it's not really working out as well. And the top players of Pakistan, they don't play domestic cricket. They're busy playing franchise tournaments, and they're busy playing a county season somewhere or the other. So it's a lot of administrative things to look over, and I think the only solution to this is get your politicians out of the system. Otherwise, these kind of rots can just it'll just increase it. And in Pakistan, it's not a question of lack of skill or a lack of intent, because the players are cricket crazy, like you mentioned. So they really want to do well for the country. It's just, are the best guys coming to the top? Are the best guys getting the chance, or are some unworthy names because they have famous uncles or famous fathers just taking away important spots in the national setup?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said, it's the Pakistan team is a very talented one. I don't think there's any doubt about it. They have some great players, and I feel like some of these administrative failures, and some of this shallow thinking, like you said, how they just sort of wanted to replicate this Australian domestic model. I think that that sort of thinking leads into the team management as well, not just the administration that's overseeing everything. You can see that some of their decision making, even on the field, and some of the calls they make as a management, is pretty questionable as well at times. And one thing that my mind goes back to immediately is them not wanting to pick a spinner or choosing not to pick a spinner for this first test. I think it's been debated a lot. But yeah, it also takes me to another statement that Azam Mahmood made. I think he's their coach. I think he said that we didn't read the pitch wrong, but it didn't behave as we expected to. I mean, that's just another way of saying, yeah, we didn't read the pitch right. You can try and cover it up. I think, like you said, because there's so much political influence, because there's so much blame thrown around. As soon as something goes wrong, and there are people ready to take you down at the first chance you get. Everyone's out there, being defensive, trying to shove the blame on someone else, trying to make it seem like they're not really responsible for what's happened, and trying to be the victim. Honestly, I think that's what the PCB chairman was doing as well when he said that we don't have a big enough talent pool to pick from. If you don't have a big enough talent pool to pick from, and you're the PCB chairman, I think you have the power to change that, to make the changes required, so that this is not the case. Yeah, I think everyone in Pakistan, because of all of the political influence, they're just stuck up on saving their own skin, trying to ensure that they're not pulled down from the position they're in.
Absolutely, and this comes because it's not necessarily the most stable political country as well. So again, no prime minister has completed a full term. So even PCB chairman, they're very insecure maybe. So they're really looking to just save themselves, and there isn't enough of a long-term vision with whatever they are planning because they know their tenure might not last more than 3 4 years. So you're just looking at some short fixes, some quick ways to go around things without necessarily looking at a long-term vision. For instance, Pakistan just had a merry-go-round with their coaching staff, where at one point they had domestic coaches come into the setup, and then once the chairman shifted around, they dabbled with the idea of let's go international with our coaches. So they got Matthew Hayden in. Right now, Jason Gillespie is in charge. Gary Kirsten was there during the World Cup. Um, I'm not so sure if that's the right approach because there is firstly going to be a language barrier for a lot of these players in the Pakistani team to be able to communicate with a foreign coach. And in general, the foreign coach might not be aware of the situation at the ground level and like what these players are going through, what are their insecurities, what are their tensions and challenges, and how to best address them. So uh, some misplaced priorities, I feel, is what has costed Pakistan in these last 4 or 5 years, where the intent was probably there to do something novel, to get drop-in pitches or to have the best coaches around. But is that the best practical solution for the time being? I'm not necessarily sure. And another thing about Pakistan that's always in the radar is about the pitches and how they produce such lifeless pitches that almost kill Test cricket more often than not. What are your thoughts on pitches in Pakistan?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's become quite common to see nice highways laid out instead of pitches in Pakistan. I immediately go back to the England tour that happened, I think, a couple of years ago, where Harry Brooks scored a truckload of runs. But I'm immediately reminded of that as soon as you say Pakistan pitches. That's the only thing I can remember. And again, in this test match too against Bangladesh, I think that's what Pakistan expected. They went in with four seamers, and their reasoning was was that they didn't expect the pitch to deteriorate. And I mean, I don't think it did deteriorate a lot, but it did just a bit more than they expected, and that was enough for Bangladesh to come in and exploit. And because Pakistan have been playing on these flat tracks that haven't have struggled to produce results, their batsmen were at sea. They didn't they faced completely alien conditions in their own backyard, which is so strange. Um, and yeah, I was looking at some of the dismissals in that game. It wasn't even like the ball. was turning that much. It wasn't turning square. It wasn't like some of the pitches you see in India. I know we spoke about this last time, but if the ball wasn't doing much, doing it was doing only a little, and that was enough to sow this doubt in the player's mind. And like you said, again, they lacked a lot of conviction. It comes back to the fact that they probably don't play enough domestic cricket, and even those who do, they they don't see consistency in the kind of pitches that are produced. And when you come back to international cricket, again, they're not producing pitches that are ideal to their own side.
Absolutely, and I was just researching a bit about their pitches. So when Pakistan started playing cricket once again after they used to play a lot of their cricket in the UAE, one of the first teams that came to visit them was South Africa, and they played two Test series at home, and both those pitches were really good. And one of those tests was in fact played in Rawalpindi. So both those tests were actually fifth day, about post lunch finishes and close games, and you had a lot of seam and swing movement, and there was something for the fast bowlers of both sides. Just a very clear competition between bat and ball. But I think that's totally dwindled and gone out of the window. The primary reason for that maybe is the next big team to visit Pakistan was Australia, and Australia have a fearsome fast bowling attack, and Ramiz Raja admittedly wanted to neutralize that, so that's why he provided a really flat wicket, and that was the infamous Test match where only 14 wickets fell across 5 days, and that was the trend of that series. And post that, Pakistan hosted England, Pakistan hosted New Zealand, two teams that have pretty good fast bowling attacks once again. So I don't know if the thought of the management and the thought of the administrators were, hey, we can't lose out here because they have better or if not as good fast bowlers as us. So let's just take the safe route out here and let's prepare really flat wickets so that we can draw and like hold our head high when we leave the ground, basically. But that has actually not worked out in their favor as well because they were baseball through when England came to town, and New Zealand just played out two very comfortable draws without having much of a question. I remember the New Zealand test. Day one, I think the third or fourth ball, Mir Hamza was bowling, and he just bowled one outside off, and that ball bounced thrice before it reached the keeper. So that was a clear marker of what the test is going to be like and what the pitch is going to be like. So primarily, I think a little bit of this of the pitch being this way is the administration, where they're so afraid probably of losing at home and getting exposed that they'd rather take dull test matches where batters can score a lot of runs. Another, like this is purely my thought on what could have played is they had a they had a batter who was captain for most of this period in Babar Azam, and I'm not sure if a batter would like to have pitches that aid him more. So just pitches that will help him get more runs, and that's why Pakistan went more on the flat trajectory. But two other reasons for why Pakistan are not really able to produce good quality pitches is firstly they're not like the other subcontinent countries where they don't have a lot of clay. They don't have a lot of clay soil. So because of which you can't produce turning tracks in Pakistan. And in general, they face a little bit of weather extremities where their summers are too hot and their winters can be a bit harsh. And at that time, the pitch is exposed to the atmospheric conditions, which just totally harden the surface, and then you need to keep it rolled multiple times, and that flattens it out. So just from a pure environmental point of view, this is the reason that why Pakistan's getting more flat decks than the rest of the world. And the other problem that Pakistan faces is geographically, their climatic conditions across the country are very same. So Multan is not very different from Rawalpindi. Karachi is not very different from Islamabad. But that's not the case with most other cricket playing nations. In India, you're going to have very different conditions in Chepauk and Delhi, for example. In Australia, Sydney is going to take a bit of turn. for it's going to be bouncy. In England, you know that Trent Bridge is a wicket that's going to get you some runs. Lords is a place that you're going to get a lot of swing and seam movement. But Pakistan, there's a lot of uniformity on what you can expect from the pitches. So, in terms of a skill set and in terms of what even curators can prepare, it's very limited for us. And another problem for Pakistan, and this is where I think a little bit of external help could at some point come handy. It is that their peak cricket season is from Feb to say June. Feb to June is their ideal cricket time. Before that, it's either too hot or too cold. Like even right now, the temperature was 40 degrees when they were playing against Bangladesh. And what's happening is February is the month that they play PSL out there, and April, May are IPL months. So you're not going to have a good quality side touring them at that point. So their best months are actually being wasted because of the way the cricket calendar is now, and Pakistan's not able to get top dollar for their pitches, and then they are forced to accommodate other teams in months that are not the most conducive for their cricket. And what you get is just really flat decks, and then the team with better batsmen end up winning.
Yeah, I think again a few more excellent points that you make about the best cricket playing months in Pakistan being from February to June, and the PSL occupying the early part of February, and I think a bit of March as well. I think they're trying to change that. I believe I read some reports about them wanting to conduct the PSL at the same time as the IPL in the same window. Again, that raises questions about what's going to happen to the PSL and how they're going to compete with the IPL for international players. But I did hear that that's what they're trying to do. So I guess that's a step in the right direction as far as getting Pakistan back to playing their best Test cricket. And about the pitches, again, it's an angle I definitely hadn't thought about. Conditions being uniform across the country, and maybe that's why Ramiz Raja wanted to get in those drop-in pitches. So yeah, that's I don't know if they'll ever look in that direction again. But maybe they can find ways to if they can find ways to make pitches feature a good contest between bat and ball. I think they're halfway there. And they need to make pitches that suit their kind of bowlers. Right now, you now Pakistan are heavily reliant on their pace attack, and their lack of spinners is clearly evident in the previous game. I think they don't have any top spinner going around. Abrar Ahmed, I believe, is the only spinner who's averaging in the top, whose bowling averages are in the top 12 among subcontinent spinners. I remember reading something like that. So they don't have a top spinner in their a top not a top spinner, a top ranked or a top quality spinner in their ranks. So again, if they've got to think about a way to work around that problem, and I guess one way they can do that is definitely to make pitches that aid fast bowlers. And I can see why they'd be reluctant, like you said, when they feel that the touring side might have better fast bowlers. It might actually end up being counterproductive. But they can do is back themselves and back their strengths, and hope that they can come good. There's no other way around it. So I think a lot of changes required to get Pakistan back up there, back playing their best cricket. There's no doubt there's immense talent there. They've got world class players. It's just they need an environment where they can thrive in. Be that the domestic structure or the kind of pitches that they have when they play international cricket there. Yeah, I think Pakistan is a nation that needs some help, not from the outside this time, like the West Indies do, but they need help from within, and for that to happen, they need change. I don't know where that change is going to come from, but or maybe they don't need. They need a change in the way the system works, not a change in the system itself.
Cricket fandom in Pakistan is at a different level. Like it's it's probably after India the second most cricket crazed nation out there, and to see the country experience these tough times as losing to USA in the World Cup, losing to Bangladesh now at home, it's really unfortunate, and I'm sure the fans did not deserve this for the way they've supported the team through thick and thin, and a lot of how they solve this is internal because it's just if they can get the best minds coming into the system and the best players being picked into their squads, then I'm sure they'll compete at a level that they used to in the 90s and the early 2000s when they were a feared nation. And uh, a healthy cricket environment needs a healthy Pakistan. So, as fans of cricket, we just want Pakistan cricket to really uh, generate their force once again and recognize their power and just give something for their fans to cheer about because their fans have backed them to the hill and their fans don't deserve this at the end of the day.
And that is all we have time for this time around. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. We'll be back with more. Until then, make sure you do like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you soon.